Today, we're going to be talking about how to maximize the end of the year spending. And I thought it'd be good to go back to just look at how much does the government spend. It's always fun for me to watch social media and see what people throw out there, et cetera. But there are facts, right? Facts are pretty easy to find. The federal government in FY 2023, so last fiscal year, they spent about $4.8 trillion last year. That doesn't count debt and all this other stuff, but they spent about $4.8 trillion. 700 billion of that, about 745 billion. I think I wrote the details down. 745 billion of that was spent on contracts awarded to government contractors like you, right? Well, and like Lockheed, but right, to government contractors. The thing about that 700 million or 700 billion is that new contracts, right? Not things that are continuing, but new contracts were half that number. And so new contracts awarded to government contractors was about 377.2 billion. And so the rest of it, when you think about how do you go from 377 up to 700 billion, the rest of that is basically option years, people who are in their second and third and fourth year of a 5-year contract. So new contracts represented 377 billion. And of those new awards, about 116.4 billion was awarded to small businesses in 2023 as new contract awards, right? And so you're seeing those numbers come down, right? 700 billion, 377 billion in new awards out there to everybody. And then 116 billion to small businesses as new awards. And by the way, 100 billion is nothing to sneeze at, right? And then the last thing, the most impressive to me, was that $51.8 billion were awarded to small businesses in the last quarter. This is literally what we're talking about today, right? But when you think about that, $50 billion awarded in the last quarter of 2023, and that means almost half of the entire spend that the government did with small businesses on new awards. So, you think recompetes or new requirements, but brand new awards, not option years, was 50 billion in that last quarter, July, August, September. That's a big deal. And that's why I'm doing this training, and you'll see me do a lot more about it. It's like, how do you get a piece of that? You don't get a piece if you don't deserve it. But if you deserve it and you just haven't figured out how to find it, that's what I want to help you do, right? And it really just takes hard work once you've got the quals that you need to have. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to be going back and forth on a lot of different stuff. So I got to go here and then here. And then here. Okay, I'm only going to share a couple of slides, but I'm going to spend most of my time in government tools so I can show you where I go when I'm looking to help my customers at the end of the year and where I want to help you. So this is some of my approach to ensure that we're able to get end of the year spending success. And when I say some of my approach, the only reason it's limited is because I only have 30 minutes, right? These trainings are 30 minutes, but you can watch previous trainings I've been doing. And I've done over 500 in the last 2 years alone. You can go back and look at that stuff and see me dive down into deep details on particular end of the year spending tips, et cetera. And I will do a lot more going forward in the next month. So today I want to break down the training that I'm going to do into 3 main areas. First thing is I just want to talk to you about end of the year spending and how it's real. What I mean by real is let's go look at the numbers. And I'm throwing out these pretty spectacular numbers, right? 700 billion and 377 billion in new awards, 116 to small businesses as new awards, and then $50 billion as new awards towards the end of the year. Well, those are all facts. They're not me making up numbers, and they're not hard facts to find once you learn it the first time. And so I'm going to show you that, but I also want to show you different ways of looking at the end of the year spending. That's first step. Second thing is I just want to come back and talk about if you're going to have a plan or if you're going to drive towards end of the year success, you need to have a plan and do research around that. I'll give you some quick tips on that before diving back into the tools and showing you how I find opportunities, how I look around. And so I'll drive into some of that in real world examples. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of that process is going from A to Z, and when you follow the process, you have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you in general for your business. And in particular, this is what I want to help teach you today is the process around looking at end of the year spending. Whether you're small or large, it's the same thing. We look in and go, well, how are we getting a piece of this? I don't know if I said this earlier, but the best time to go after, and I might say it in 2 seconds, but the best time to plan for end of the year spending was last year. You're looking out into 2024 and saying, how are we going to get end of the year spending? The second best time is today, right? It's the same thing going forward. The best time to plan for 2025 success is today. Okay, so let's get rocking and rolling. I guess we're going to go straight into USA spending. I just want to show you how I look at the numbers, even walking you through. How did I get that $1 trillion number and how did I walk down? Let's go through and I'll try to show you pretty fast. You can always come back and watch the replay, etc. later. This is usaspending.gov. This is not a source repository, just so you know. This is an easy interface so you can come in and look at it. But the data I'm going to show you in particular is coming from FPDS. So you can go watch Tuesday's training where I talk all about acronyms. But FPDS is where basically contract awards are listed. So I'm going to come into USA Spending. And I'm going to set some filters. And I'm going to set them one at a time so you start seeing what I do. I think it'll be really helpful for you. So the first thing I want to do is look at last year. I'm just looking at the last full fiscal year. And so I'm choosing FY 2023. And I think what I'm going to do is stay right here on this tab. So when I come into FY 2023, I can see there's $4.8 trillion that they spent. Right? This doesn't include interest. So then the next thing I want to do is filter this data further by saying, well, just show me contracts. I don't know if you can see that, but you can come back later. But show me contracts. And this is our world, right? So when I hit submit search and I come back and look at the data, now I just went from 4.8 trillion down to $745.6 billion. Those are contract dollars. Keep in mind, those are the same dollars for like battleships and other things. So it's everybody out there. The next thing I wanted to do is to drop down and just show you, I'm just saying new contract awards. I don't actually want to see today not the recompete, but the option years and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to weed it out by saying, show me only new contract awards. Let me come down and hit submit search again. And so I just went from whatever number that was down to 377, right? And so you're seeing those numbers drop down. The next thing I want to do is come down and filter this even further. And so I'm coming down to recipient type. What type of business? And there's all sorts of things. I could go in and say how much was awarded to women-owned small business, et cetera. And we can try that in a second. But first, I'm just going to show you small business, right? How much went, and let me zoom back in for a second. So now I'm setting another filter. Up at the top, you can see the filters. FY 2023, all contract types, recipient type, small business. And here is where I go down to that 116. Let me just go back. I lost my thread for 1 second. I'm going to the secret slide I got. Trillion, 700 billion, new contracts. So 116 and then to small. So I just wanted to come back. Let me go forward. That's that slide I never show anybody. Okay, so you're able to see these contracts that are in there. And if I wanted, I could keep going down further and say, well, how much of it was set aside to small business? This is the last one I want to show you here. So total small business set aside somewhere down here. Come on. Where are you? Small business set aside total, right? That's really just what I'm looking for. I want to get rid of this other guy and I'm going to come back up and I'm going to look at this last one. Oh, I know what I was forgetting. And then, so now I'm looking at this 19 billion was total small business set aside. Now let me come back to set one last thing. So I'm going to change that guy. I want to come back and say the recipient type is small business. We had already been doing that, right? And so recipient type was small business. Come on. Come on, USA Spending. I only got a few minutes. Load the data. Load the data. What I want to show you is the period of the time period. There we go. So 116 billion, right, for last year. But what I'm really coming in to do now is to say, well, show me the last quarter of last year. So coming to July 1st to September 30th, 2023. If you can't see it, that's what that is. So now I'm saying, just show me the last quarter. And when I hit submit search, this is where I get to my $51.8 billion, right? right? And so this ability to look in there and see that data, it's right there. Now I want to go, oh, by the way, just so you see it even better, not better, but just a little bit more information. You got July, August, and September, and September pops. If USA Spending would ever show it for me, thank you. You can see this, right? The buildup towards September is huge. The reason you want to keep this in mind, and I'll come back and talk about it in a minute, is because you can start here in June and start putting things in place to try to go after stuff at the end of 2023, in September 2023. And there's going to be a lot of spending. That's $30 billion that's going out there. That's total small business, right? So this is a huge amount that's happening in that last month. Now, keep in mind, it is everywhere. So let me show you what I mean by everywhere. First off, if I come into USA Spending and I'm keeping those same filters, I can come to the categories tab. I'm looking at spending by awarding agencies. And then I said, show me sub-agencies. And if you saw my post this morning, this is how I got the screenshots. But in here, I can see right away, it's like, wow, the last quarter of the year, $9 billion is going to be spent potentially, right? But that's pretty consistent year after year. But $9 billion by the Army in small business contracts, right? Awarded to small business. Doesn't even matter that it's set aside. And then look at this. It's all DOD. So DLA is Defense Logistics Agency. You think a lot of parts in there. They do services, but a huge amount of parts, manufacturing side. And then the Navy and the Air Force lining up all of these. This is huge. If you're an SDVO or a VOSB, the Service Disabled and Veteran-Owned Small Businesses, then you're able to sit there and see a lot of traction at the end of the year, that third quarter or fourth quarter of 2023. The same thing's probably going to be happening in 2024, especially if you don't recall, the budget got passed late. So a lot of things were kind of slow crawling forward. And this is one of the reasons we sometimes see a huge spending increase at the end. It's not the only reason. There's a lot of reasons. But so anyways, you can come through here and start seeing the different agencies. I'm not here to do it for you. You can go into USA Spending and go in and try to look at your particular agency. That's what I would do, is come over here and set a filter. Let me collapse some of these filters really quick. They're still there. I'm just going to collapse them and set aside. So now it's a little cleaner. But I can come in here and say, show me the agency if I wanted. And if I'm going after a particular agency, I can see what kind of spend. The other thing I wanted to show you right here, when you think about where's that end of the year spending happening, I can come in here and say, well, show me the recipients. That's one of my favorite things, is I can look in and go, well, who's winning? How are they winning? Who on earth is this Atlantic Diving Supply Company getting $2 billion? I mean, for me, that's worth an hour's exploration and a cup of coffee to look in there and go, how on earth are you getting $500 million in the fourth quarter? And how are you getting $2 billion? Now, pretty darn good chance that this is all supply type stuff if I looked. But what it is also telling me, it's like, well, diving supplies is probably not my world. And I'm going to come back in a minute and look at that. So I probably want to filter this down, and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. But that was a quick way of just trying to show you, hey, this is where all this end of the year spending happens. So let me go back and we'll come back to this. Let me go back to my slides. So let's talk about, well, okay. So before I talk about planning and research, let me just tell you that we've got exciting news. We're launching a web-based solution that is going to address the biggest problems, top challenges that small business government contractors have. And this thing's very exciting for me because I've been training, like I said, thousands of businesses over the last 7 years, small businesses, and we understand and have been able to boil down to these three main challenges: getting in the door to meet with federal buyers, finding teammates who want to work with you, and then identifying, pursuing, and responding to the right opportunities, ones that you can win, what I like to call slam dunk opportunities. And so we're going to be launching this tool. I think right now, you're the first ones to hear this, but I'm thinking July 1st. So end of June, we'll have it. We'll slow launch it into the wait list. And then July 1st, we'll let everybody know. But if you're interested in hearing about it before everybody else, just join the wait list, govconinAbox.com, govconinAbox.com. Okay, so let's talk about planning and research. Before I go back in and show you how I actually am approaching this when I'm helping my customers, I just want you to understand the steps that I think about. So the first thing you need to do is establish your revenue goal for 2025. And there's a lot that goes into this. So let's just call this, your net revenue goal, what you need to get in order to achieve a revenue goal. And what I mean by this is if you want to go to 10 million in 2025 and you pretty much can forecast you're going to have 5 million already, then you need net new $5 million. So you need new $5 million in revenue next year. In order to get that, you need to do sales in this year, right? You could slide into this year, but you need it this year. And so for me, for one of my customers, they have a $5 million goal next year. That means revenue next year. That means we want to land $5 million in sales. It could be one sale that's for $25 million. It's $5 million a year and $5 million next year. Or it could be 10 sales at $500,000 a year kind of thing, right? It could be a combination of anything. That doesn't matter. That's my sales pipeline. But I have my goal. And now I know I'm trying to get this in the last quarter of FY 2024, the next 3.5 months. Of course, I have the rest of 2024. It's funny, I forgot the months, but October, November, December, the government spends there. Of course, I could do it, but we want to hit our entire revenue goal for 2025 with sales that are complete in 2024, FY 2024. And so that means in the next 3.5 months, we want to hit that $5 million goal of at least $5 million in revenue for 2025. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to make sure that when we start 2025, we already know we hit our revenue goal. We don't need to do any more sales in 2024 or 5 for 25 to be a good year. We will, because it's, you can always exceed your goal, but you want to hit your minimum goal this year, and that's sales. The next thing I'm doing is, what do I sell? Don't sell everything. Don't look at that $50 billion or $9 billion or whatever it is in the Army and say, oh, I can go everywhere and sell everything. No, you're not going to get any traction at all, because it's about having a clear, focused offer and talking to the people who can help you reach the opportunities or the requirements that match that clear, focused offer. And so for my customer, they sell multiple things, but admin support services is where we're really trying to cover down, because they got strong past performances and it's a space they want to be in. And they typically have 5-year contracts, right? So those are good. And so I'm just taking a note, and I put 541611. The government buys things in many different ways, but for admin support services, 541611, the NAICS code, that's a good one. So the next one is, where do I want to get it? The Army. Just leave it there. You pick an agency and you go in. We're trying to go into the Army for 2 main reasons. They're an 8A firm, and the Army is one of the most, if not the most friendliest to 8A small businesses and using 8As. And then the last thing is, I want to be looking at this period of between July and September. I'm going to go in, I'll show you how to do this really quick, but I want to see which contracting officers and which contracting shops were awarding these type of contracts in 2023, because the chances of them doing it again this year are pretty good. Okay, so let's go back in there really quick. By the way, this is where you can go register. GovCon in a box. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different ways of looking at this. And the first way, just because I'm watching my time and it might be tough, I want to put in FPDS. So FPDS, if I come in here, I'm just going to type in 541611. When I do that, and you can come back, and I got a lot of training on FPDS. So I'm going to go really fast because I only got eight minutes. When I type something like that and I get here, the first thing I do is I come over here to this NAICS code. If I just click on this NAICS code, it instantly changes my results up there, and it gives me the proper language for that search query, right? So now I'm searching on a principal NAICS code. The next thing is, I know I want to go into Army, and I can see it down here, top 10 contracting commands. So I'm going to hit that one. This is saving me time from having to type it in. The next thing I want is to find, and let me go into advanced, I want to find contracts that were awarded in those last 3 months of 2023. So I'm going to say add, searching within these results, right? I have 162,000. I'm going to say add, I'm going to choose the date signed. So date signed, and here I'm going to say it's 7/1/2023. Whoa, what is all that? Oh, hey, that was pretty cool. Sometimes they improve their tools and I don't notice it, but right here, oh well. Oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, sorry, I got a little distracted by the fact they changed it. But I just went down from 160,000 opportunities down to 559. This is huge for me because I can come in and see who's doing awards. I don't actually care whether at the moment, whether they're doing awards to small businesses or larges, because if I can get in there and get visibility with a contracting officer, that's a good thing. So if you notice, let me just bring this up in case you're not overly familiar. The search criteria I use, just to make sure you understand, I said, show me NAICS code, and then show me the Department of Army for Contracting Command. I could have tightened that up if I wanted. And then I said in that period of time, right? So let me back this up. And now for the fun of it, I'm just going to search. I'm just going to sort by action obligation here. And basically what I said is I'm looking for winners in there. And the next thing I'm looking for is I can click on all of these, but what I want to do is just scroll down to something that might be a little bit more similar to what we might go after. Like this one here, 3.9. I get the feeling when it's 3.9 million that maybe it was a sole source to an 8A. And remember, I said my customer's company is an 8A. One mistake I made is I didn't save my search, but we'll come back to that. So I come in here and I can quickly see that this is not 3.9, it's $40 million, and that's just their option year type thing. But what I wanted to show you, what I'm trying to do for my approach towards end of the year spending is this person, Sharon Snow, and actually I know this person, which is pretty, what's the coincidence? What's the chances of that? This person, this contracting officer is in the Army and they did this award, right? They posted it out. I can go find them now. If I didn't know who they were, I can take that email over to Google and I can find them and I can find their name, their title, and their phone number. And now I have a person who last year at the end of the year did end of the year spending in my space, in my target agency. And this is something you want to track. One quick tip is when you go in here and you're going to search for this person, get rid of that because there's certain stuff that they put in FPDS sometimes that just is I think it's like an automatic email thing. But if you get rid of that, then you got the person's real email address. The other thing I wanted to show you, so that's the contracting officer. Now I'm in the Army, I'm looking at contracting officers, but I want to know the contracting shop. And so here, keep in mind, like here, the customer is Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. That's a command or an office, right? That's who's funding it. That's the program office. That's the buyer. And I don't believe the contracting officers are the buyers. Yes, they're the signature, but these funding office, this is the people who have the need. That's the true buyer in a salesperson's eyes. But contract office, this is huge. This is right here. If you're not familiar, ACC-APG stands for Army Contracting Command, Aberdeen Proving Ground. This is Aberdeen Proving Ground is a major contracting center for multiple large Army commands, right? So whatever echelon that is, I think echelon 2 or something if you learn your Army structure. And these people do a ton. If you go, remember I told you at the beginning of this training, make sure you signed up for my newsletter. One of the articles I put out, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or something, maybe even 4, but was something from Aberdeen Proving Ground. And it was 250 opportunities that were, it was like a massive industry day. They call it an APBI, Advanced Planning Brief to Industry. And it was all of these opportunities that are coming out, real opportunities, not like forecast and a list that sometimes go away. These are real ones where they were telling you the status, et cetera, giving you contracting folks. Well, that came out of APG, Aberdeen Proving Ground. And so because I know I'm good in the Army, if I didn't know this before, I now know that ACC-APG is a target office of mine. I want to get in there and do introductions with them and track opportunities that are coming out, let them know that we exist. And so what I would do here when I'm research and planning, and I'm running out of time, is I would go through these 500, and I got rid of them. Oh, look at that, it saved it. Sometimes it gets rid of it. But I would go through all 559. I could download this somewhere over here, CSV, right? I can download it. I would spend one day and process it. And then I would come back in and start grabbing those contracting officers' names. And I would create an outreach plan to reach out to these people in June and in early July if it takes me that long. At the very beginning of today's training, I said one of the reasons, and this was an early tip before we officially started, I said one of the reasons that people don't succeed is they don't do enough activity. And so if you go in and you find a target agency and they buy what you sell and it was towards the end of the year and you can find those points of contact, then do the extra work of downloading them all and then contacting them. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training, because I'm running out of time. First thing is, make sure you set your 2025 goal, revenue goal, because that informs your 2024 sales goal. Second thing is plan your approach. And I just ended with that, talking about how do you get in there and start talking to them. And the last thing, again, I just said this as well, 100x your outreach effort. Outreach is picking up the phone or sending an email, trying to get in the door. I only talk to you about how to get in the door through contracting officers. And if you come back in a future training in the next week or two, I will talk about how to go in through those winners as well, especially if you're not already having contracts and you're just getting started. You want to subcontract in under those winners.